We have done in the last stanza that Evans told Mr. Jackson about his hat he was wearing. He said, "This is my lucky charm and I want to wear it during my exam also." And he also knew that Mr. Jackson, he had some compassion towards him. He had some compassion for Evans and Evans knew it. We'll move to the next page. Just this once, then Shelley Temple. If there was one thing that Jackson genuinely loathed about Evans, it was his long, wavy hair. So he called him Shelley Temple. Also, Shelley Temple, he was an actor. And the one thing which Jackson hated about Evans, it was his long hair. And get shaving. He said, "Go get shaving, smarten up yourself for your exam." At 8:45 the same morning, the Reverend Stuart McLeary left his bachelor flat in Broad Street and stepped out briskly towards Carfax. So 8:45 in the morning, the priest Stuart McLeary, he left his flat which was in Broad Street, and he came fast. Briskly means fast. Very quickly he moved towards Carfax. The weatherman reported temperatures considerably below the normal for early June. Weatherman means he must have seen the news. He must have heard about the temperature, which was below the normal for early June, which should be there, but it was below. And a long black overcoat and a shallow crowned clerical hat provided welcome protection from the steady drizzle. So he was wearing a long overcoat, this long overcoat, black color overcoat, and one shallow crowned clerical hat, small one hat, provided welcome protection from the steady drizzle which had set in half an hour earlier. So it protective hat and the black overcoat protected him from the drizzle. It already started raining, and which now spattered the thick lenses of his spectacles. And now this raindrop, they could be seen in the lenses of his specs. In his right hand he was carrying a small brown suitcase which contained all that he would need for his morning duty. So he had one suitcase also in his hand, including a sealed question paper envelope, a yellow invigilation form. He had one envelope also of paper and invigilation form also. A special authentication card from the examination board, a paper knife, a Bible. So he had authentication card from the examination board because he was coming to invigilate there. A paper knife he had to open the envelope, and he had a Bible. He was to speak to the woman guide that afternoon on the book of Ruth. So he had Bible also because he has to prepare his speech for women's guild that afternoon on the back of Ruth. He was preparing the topic also. And a current copy of the Church Times. The 2-hour examination was scheduled to start at 9:15. So 9:15 the exam was going to start. Evans was lathering his face vigorously when Stephens brought into two small square tables. So he was lathering means he was shaving. So he was before shaving he was putting the foam and all on his face to save it, and it was very harshly he was doing that. So Stephen came inside. He brought two small square tables and set them opposite each other in the narrow space between the bunk on the one side and on the other side distempered stone wall. So two tables he brought, opposite side he kept, one side, and on the one side of the bunk, or another one other side, other distemper stone, near the distemper stone wall. Next, Stephens brought in two hard chairs, the slightly less battered. Then he brought two chairs, hard chair, which was slightly less battered, means they were little bit broken, of which he placed in front of the table, which stood nearer the cell door. So he put the chair there and the table there, which were near the door of the cell. Jackson put in a brief final appearance, "Behave yourself, lady." And he told him, "Behave yourself, lady." Lady means led we say to the boy. Led and less we say to girls. He said, "Lady, behave properly. Boy, behave properly." Evans turned and nodded, and he said, "Yes." And these, Jackson pointed to the pin-ups of Evans turned and nodded again. "I was going to take them down anyway." He said the pins were there. So Jackson said, "You take them out." And Evans said, "Yes, I was going to do it." "A minister, isn't he? The chap coming to sit in, I mean." So he was asking Jackson, "I think there's some minister is coming to sit with me today." "And how did you know that?" asked Jackson quietly. And Jackson said, "How do you know that?" "Well, I had to sign some forms, didn't I? And I could not help." He said, "I have to sign some forms, I think, before giving exam. And I could not Then he did not speak anything. Evans drew the razor carefully down his left cheek. Then he was shaving with the razor and left a neat swath in the white lather. So when we do shaving, what happens when you put the razor down? A sharp line is seen there. So swath means one line was there in the white lather. Can I ask you something, Mr. Jackson? Why did they have to bug me in this cell? So we asked Jackson, why did they have to bug me in this cell? Bug me means they must have put some microphone there to listen whatever communication was being done in the cell. He said, why they are doing this? He nodded his head vaguely to a point above the door. So he nodded his head, did not say anything, unclearly he nodded his head, and he was looking at the point above the door where that microphone would be there. Not a very neat job, conceded Jackson. They are not. They don't honestly think I am going to try to. He said they think that I will try to escape from here again. They are taking no chances, Evans. Nobody in his senses would take any chance with you. He said they don't want to take any chance, because if they would be in senses, they will not take any chance with you, because you have already escaped from the jail for 3 times. Who is going to listen in? He said, then who will listen to our conversation? I will tell you who is going to listen in, lady. It's the governor himself. See, he said, I will tell you who is going to listen to. Who will listen? Governor himself will listen to you. He don't trust you a bloody inch, and nor do I. He said he does not trust you, and I also don't do that. Not a inch I trust you. Not at all we trust you. I'll be watching you like a hawk. He said, I'll watch you like a hawk. Evans, so keep your nose clean. Keep your nose clean means, it's a phrase. The meaning is stay out of the trouble. So stay out of the trouble. Don't do anything. Clear? He walked towards the door. Evans nodded. He'd already thought of that. And number 2 handkerchief was lying ready on the bunk. So he already thought of that, not doing anything. And one hanky was there, lying there. A neatly folded square of off-white linen cloth hanky was there. Just one more thing, Einstein. Yeah, what's that? Good luck, Olson. So he called him Einstein also. He said, one more thing I want to say. He said, what is it? So Jackson said, good luck. In the little lodge just inside the prison's main gate, the Reverend S. McCleary signed his name neatly in the visitor's book and thence walked side by side with the silent prison officer across the exercise yard to D wing. So McCleary, Reverend McCleary, he came, he signed the visitor book, and he was coming to D wing, where he was greeted by Jackson, and he met Jackson there. The wing's heavy outer door was unlocked and locked behind them. They opened the door and then closed it again, locked again. The heavy inner door the same, and McCleary was handed into Stephen's keeping. Then he came inside. Get the razor, murmured Jackson. Stephen nodded. So Jackson said, get the razor, and Stephen also said, okay. Well, keep your eyes skinned. Clear? Keep your eyes skinned means, this is also a phrase, it means be alert. Okay, be alert. That boy can do anything, so be alert. Stephen nodded again, and McCleary, his feet clanging up the iron stairs, followed his new guide and finally stood before a cell door. So he came from the iron stairs were there, which were clanging. The sound was coming when he was walking on the stairs, and then he came in front of the cell door, where Stephens opened the peephole and looked through. Peephole means a small hole was there to look inside. So he looked from there. That's him, sir, he said. That's the boy sitting there. Evans, facing the door, sat quietly at the farther of the two tables, his whole attention riveted to a textbook of elementary German grammar. So he was sitting there, Evans was sitting there quietly, and he was looking at the elementary German grammar book. Stephens took the key from its ring, and the cell lock sprang back with a thud. So Stephen took the key, and when the priest came inside, the cell was locked again. Metallic twang. So when we lock this, maybe our gates or this channels and all, the metallic sound came. So same thing, when he locked, the same sound was there. And now Mr. McCleary, he was inside the cell with Evans to take his exam. We have done in the last stanza that priest McCleary, he has reached to the cell where Evans was sitting, and they both were inside. It was 9:10 a.m. when the governor switched on the receiver. He had instructed Jackson to tell Evans of the temporary little precautions. So 9 and 10 a.m. he switched on the receiver, which I told you the microphone was there to listen to the conversation, whatever will go on in the cell. And he told Jackson to tell Evans to take precaution not to do anything. That was only fair, as if Evans would not spot it. But wasn't it all a bit theatrical? Schoolboyish almost. How on earth was Evans going to try anything on today? So they were thinking this all is looking like dramatical, and they don't know how he is going to escape today, because everything was so nicely done. All the security arrangement and everything was done properly so that he cannot escape. How on earth Evans going to try anything on today? If he was so anxious to make another break, why in heaven's name hadn't he tried it from the recreational block? So if he would have thought of escaping today, he would have gone from recreational block only. He would have not come here inside. Much easier, but he hadn't. And there he was now, sitting in the locked cell, all the prison officers on the other. 2 more locked doors between his cell and the yard. So he was sitting inside. Prison officers were on alert, and there were 2 locked doors. And after that there was a yard, and a yard with a wall as high as haystack. Yes, Evans was safe as houses. And in yard also the walls, they were as high as haystack. Haystack means the heap of hay. So Evans was safe like house. Anyway, it would not be any trouble at all to have the receiver turned on for the next couple of hours or so. So governor must have thought of keeping the receiver turned on for the next couple of hours, because Evans will give exam and there will be no conversation, I think, but it was okay to keep it on. Wasn't as if there was going to be anything to listen to, was it? Will there be anything to listen to? I don't think so. Amongst other things, an invigilator's duty was to ensure that the strictest silence was observed. But still the little nagging doubt. Might Evans try to take advantage of McClary? So McClary was the invigilator, and his duty was to keep pin drop silence there and observe that all the discipline and all. So don't think anything will happen like this, but maybe might Evans try to take advantage of McClary. Maybe Evans can do anything because he was very smart enough to do all the things and escape from the jail. Get him to smuggle in a chisel or 2 or a rope or ladder, or so he can do anything. He can with the chisel and with the rope or ladder, anything he can do anything. So they have to be extra precautionary. The governor sat up sharply. It was all very well getting rid of any potential weapon that Evans could have used. But what about McClary? So, because they have checked Evans and he did not have any type of weapon, anything he did not have. But maybe Mr. McClary had something. What if, quite unwittingly, the innocent McClary had brought in something himself? So, governor must be thinking that maybe without knowing, unwittingly, without knowing, he must have brought something with him, like jackknife or something, perhaps. And what if Evans held him hostage with such a weapon? And maybe Evans will make him in his custody, and he may kill him with that weapon. The governor reached for the phone. It was 9:12 a.m. The examinee and the invigilator had already been introduced by Stephens when Jackson came back and shouted to McClary through the cell door. So governor called Jackson, and Jackson came and he called McClary and Stephens out. Can you come outside a minute, sir? You too, Stephens. He called both of them. Jackson quickly explained the governor's worries. What was the governor's worry? Governor's worry was Evans should not have any type of weapon so that he can take advantage. And McClary patiently held out his arm at shoulder level whilst Jackson lightly frisked his clothes. So now they checked Mr. McClary. Something hard there, sir. He found something. My reading glasses. It was his reading glasses, replied McClary, looking down at the spectacle case. Jackson quickly reassured him, and bending down on the landing, thumb flicked the catches on the suitcase. And when he bent down, he touched the suitcase. There was a suitcase. He picked up each envelope in turn, carefully passed his palms along their surface, and seemed satisfied. He checked all the envelopes and he was satisfied. He refilled curiosity through a few pages of Holy Writ and vaguely shook the church time. He turned the pages of this Bible also, and shook that church time which newspaper he had. All right, so far, but one of the object of McClary's suitcase was puzzling him sorely. One object was there which was puzzling him badly, and what was that? Do you mind telling me why you have brought this, sir? He held up a small semi-inflated rubber ring. So one semi-inflated rubber ring was there. So he asked him, can you tell me why you have brought this? Such as a young child with a waist of about 12 inches might have struggled into. You thinking of going for a swim, sir? So he was just joking to him. It was like a tube which we use in while we swim for the safety. So he just asked him, are you going for swimming now? McClary's hitherto amiable demeanor was slightly ruffled by this tasteless little presently. So whatever he was asking, but now what happened? Up to now he was very quiet and kind type of person, McClary, but now his behavior was slightly changed. He became angry, and he answered Jackson somehow sourly, a little bit bitterly. He answered him, "If ye must know, I suffer from hemorrhoids, and when I am sitting down for any length of time." So he said, "You must know that I am suffering from hemorrhoids." Hemorrhoids means that disease, piles he had. So he had difficulty in sitting. "Very sorry, sir. I did not mean to." The embarrassment was still reddening Jackson's cheeks when he found the paper knife at the bottom of the case. He was feeling very embarrassed. He became red with embarrassment, and then he found a paper knife. "I think I would better keep this though, if you do not mind." "That is, sir," he said. "Okay, I'll keep this knife if you don't mind." It was 9:08 a.m. before the governor heard their voices again, and it was clear that the examination was going to be more than a little late in getting underway. So the governor was listening to all this conversation, whatever was happening, and he thought that the exam will be a little bit late now. "McClary, have you got a watch?" "Once, yes, sir." "I'll be telling you to start, and again when you have 5 minutes left or right." He said, "I'll tell you when to start, and when 5 minutes will be left, I will tell you to stop." Silence. Everything was silent. "There's a plenty more of this writing paper should you need it." Silence. "Now write the name of the paper 0211 in the top left hand corner." He said there are apparently more things there, and you need writing paper also, and he gave him writing paper and told him to write the name of the paper 021 in the top left hand corner. In the top right hand corner, write your index number 313, and in the box just below that, write your center number 271A or right. So this is how all the invigilator tell the students to write the numbers and everything in the paper. He was also telling him the same. Write down the index number and rest all the details, enter detail in all, and he wrote it.